All right, so you all have in front of you your document. Remember that just by reading the bold print at the top, we found out that the title is The Book of Gods and Rights by Diego Duran, written in the 16th century. We also know just by reading our background information that the topic is Aztec sacrifice. So that part of our chart is filled in. Now we need to look at the boxes that deal with the actual content. You'll remember from our strategies for analyzing for content that you need to read this document twice. The first time that you read through, you're reading through to get the topic and the main idea. So if you didn't get the topic from the background information, you need to get that. But more importantly, you need to go back and get the main idea by reading it through once. What does the text actually say that tells us about the topic? So main idea comes directly from the text. Reading it again, the second time, that's when we look for our inferences. And because we are inferring, we are learning about the topic not by what the text says right in the text, but what it implies, what it suggests to us as a reader. So that time we have to go much more slowly to find inferences and to see if there are any questions that we have after reading this document twice about the process of Aztec sacrifice, our topic. So read along with me as I read it out loud, and the strategy that I'm going to use is I'm going to underline as I go the things that stand out, that really tell me explicitly in the text about Aztec sacrifice. And then after I've done that, then I'm going to write them in my main idea box. So I'm annotating, I'm underlining the text as I go, and then I'm putting it into my graphic organizer. All of the prisoners of war who were to be sacrificed upon this feast, okay, so it's telling me the who. Our 5 W's are always helpful, so this gives me the who is being sacrificed. Upon this feast were then brought forth, surrounded by guards. The victims were forced to ascend. I don't really know what ascend means, so I have 2 options here. If I have a dictionary handy, of course, I'm first thing going to look it up. Second choice, I'm going to circle it to remind myself I'm not totally sure what it means. And I'm going to try to guess based on clues in the sentence. So I'm looking at this word ascend and I'm thinking, okay, they're forced to do something on a long platform. So they're forced to move on the long platform. They're supposed to, in some way, moving. Write that in to remind myself. I'm not sure. I also know it sounds like descend, which means to go down. So I might use that as a clue to help me out as well, but I don't quite remember what descend means either. So I'm putting to move, and if I have the chance, I'm going to go back and change it. The long platform, all of them totally nude. They, the priests, okay, so now I know who is doing the action. The priests are doing the sacrificing. Seize the victims one by one hand, one by one foot, another by the other, one priest by one hand and another by the other hand. So they've got them by the feet, they've got them by the hands. So I could underline this as a process. That's a long sentence. I'm underlining an awful lot. I'm going to see if there's anything more important possibly coming, but I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind. That's a lot to write, and I've got a lot more text to go and not a very big box. I'm looking for the most important parts. The victim was, remember here, the victim was thrown on his back upon the pointed stone where the wretch was grabbed by the 5th priest who placed the yoke. I'm not sure what this is, but it's something they're placing along his throat. The high priest then opened the chest with amazing swiftness and tore out the heart, ripping it out with his own hands. Okay, so this seems to me like it's all building, and they're ripping out the heart. So this is the actual sacrifice. So I'm going to underline that he's tearing out the heart, and that this is the what? This is the actual sacrifice. Thus steaming, the heart was lifted towards the sun. Seems to be a purpose, right? A Y almost. And the fumes were offered up to the sun. The priest then turned toward the idol and cast the heart in its face. So they're lifting the heart, they're offering the heart, they're casting the heart. Those are all things kind of centered on the heart, but it gives me that why. So I've got the who, I've got the what, now I've got the why. The priest, after the heart was extracted, I'm not sure what that means, the body was allowed to roll down the steps of the pyramid. So I'm now going to take these underlined words and I'm putting them into my main idea box, because these were word for word what I got from the text about what Aztec sacrifice is all about. So they're sacrificing prisoners of war, and I'm going to write, since I don't have a lot of space, POW, because I know that POW is short for prisoners of war. If I didn't know what that meant, I wouldn't write it down. Never put anything in your notes that you don't know what it means. It's done by priests, and they rip out the heart. So that is my first read-through. I have taken things directly out of the text and put them onto the board. But I'm not finished yet. I have to read through again in order to make inferences. I'm going to underline to remind myself that I'm looking for what is meant but not directly stated. What is Diego Duran trying to tell us about Aztec sacrifice that he doesn't come out and say? So I'm going back to my original text. I'm going to read it again slowly. All of the prisoners of war who were to be sacrificed upon this feast were then brought forth. Surrounded by guards, the victims. This is an important word. I mean, we know they're prisoners, but to refer to them as victims, that brings a really light. That the people who are capturing them are really mean, and these people are being forced to do it. So I am, and you even have the word forced in here. So based on this word choice, this word victims, I'm going to make the inference that this is not voluntary. This is a punishment. I mean, maybe not even a punishment. I mean, you're punished when you do something bad, so that's not even right. This is forced on innocent people. Not innocent. See, you have to do a lot of thinking with this and be very careful with your inferences, because you've got that word victim, so they're not being punished for anything. But on the other hand, they're prisoners of war. So they're being punished for fighting on the other side, but the writing is such a way that this is really not a voluntary thing to do. So you want to make that inference. Now see here how I am going back and forth. So the first time I demonstrate the strategy that you undo all of your underlining and then you go back. This time I'm doing my annotating and writing at the same time. The priests, seize the victims one by one foot, another by the other, one priest by one hand, and another by the other hand. See, I've been waiting for this because this is long and complicated. You and 5 other people have to be able to rip out someone's heart, and you have to do it with amazing swiftness. Now, I have never personally ripped out someone's heart, but I can imagine that that's a very difficult thing to do, especially with the tools that they have in the long run. They're doing it with their bare hands. So I think that they got a lot of practice at this. This seems like a very complicated procedure, and so to do it well and to do it with the speed that it says that they did it, that they practiced this sacrifice a lot. Now what I don't know is I don't know when or how. Do they have a practice human that they practice with in secret? Do they just do this sacrifice a lot? So just by doing it a lot, they get a lot of practice? So that is actually going to lead me to my first question. How often do they do this? Or I might ask, why do they practice this a lot? It depends on what exactly you want to find out. How often did they do this sacrifice that they're so incredibly good at it? Or at least that's what I'm inferring. Again, we have another word, wretch, where it shows that he is a victim. He is very put upon, this poor man that they're sacrificing. Placed the yoke upon his throat. The high priest then opened the chest with amazing swiftness. This inference we've already made, tore out the heart, ripping it out with his own hands, thus steaming. Good visual here. The heart was lifted toward the sun, and the fumes were offered up to the sun. That's a very repetitive thing. He's lifting it toward the sun, he's offering it to the sun. You could make an inference that there's some sort of power in the sun that they worship, that they're doing the sacrifice for. So in some way, there's power in the sun. And again, you've got a question there. What power? I don't know. Maybe they think the sun's going to go out. Maybe they think the sun will get angry at them and set everything on fire. I don't know yet. We've only read one document. So this should be a really nice list of questions, because I have a lot of questions reading this. The priest turned toward the idol and cast the heart in its face. I would make the inference that this was a sun idol, because they do a lot of lifting towards the sun, but I'm not totally sure. And cast the heart in its face. After the heart had been extracted, the body was allowed to roll down the steps of the pyramid. So they don't need the body. They let the body go away. So I might say, dump the body. Except no, wait, that's not my inference. I have to stop, because we know directly from the text that they dumped the body. They let the body roll down the steps. The inference is that the body is not important, that the heart is the only important part of this ceremony. So, heart is important. Rest of body is useless. And I've got a question. Why is the heart so important? Why not the brain? They don't like smart people, I guess. I don't know. See, that's why you ask those questions. So right now, by reading the document twice, I've said, okay, what do I learn directly from the document, and what can I infer about the Aztec sacrifice part? And there were a lot of inferences that you were able to make just by reading the document. A lot we learned that Diego Duran did not directly tell us. And that's why this box is bigger than the other one. It wants you to make inferences. It wants you to interact with history.